Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. Today we're going to talk about the box office. Now I know what you're thinking.
Dave, why do we have to talk about the box office, man? Why aren't you talking about Michael Myers, man? Why aren't you talking about Halloween, man? Why aren't you talking about horror movies, man? Come on!
Too much? Might have been a little too much. Look, the reason why... Beep! The reason why I haven't talked about Michael Myers or Halloween in a little bit is because there hasn't been any new news. And I'm not the kind of guy that talks about things just for the sake of talking about them. However, if there is something you want me to talk about, comment below and let me know. Maybe there's a movie you want to know my thoughts on. Maybe there's a topic you'd like to know my views on. Comment below and let me know. But you got to comment, right? I mean, I can't read minds. Comment and let me know. And if a lot of people comment, maybe I'll do a video on it. But anyway, today we're talking about the box office. And the reason is because at the end of every weekend, usually on Sundays, sometimes on Monday or Tuesday, depending on what's going on, I like to go to a website called Box Office Mojo. Now, I don't have a dog in their fight. I don't know them. They don't know me. I didn't just mention them because they're sending me checks every month or something. Nope, not at all. I just thought I'd mention it because it's a site I've gone to for years. And I like the site. It's simple, easy to navigate. Everything's just right there. You know what I'm saying? So I like to go to them. And I'm a numbers guy. I like to find out who came in first, who bumped first to second, who went from third to second. Oh my God, they went up one. You know what I'm saying? I like to find out, maybe some films that have been out for a while. Maybe they've sort of gained some new ground, or maybe they've completely gone to the basement. Whatever the case is, I like looking at all that kind of stuff. And it's dawned on me for quite some time. We live in a day and age, and we've lived in it for a while, especially since social media and the internet and all that kind of stuff, where there's this focus on box office numbers to the general public as well, that there's kind of this inconspicuous sort of subliminal messaging going on that box office numbers mean that if a movie makes a lot of money, that must mean that the movie is really good. And the irony of it is that it doesn't mean that. It could mean that. But 9.999999999 times out of 10, it doesn't mean that. But the way films are marketed and the way a lot of movie pundits talk about the box office and the way a lot of film critics talk about the box office and the way a lot of people on, YouTube are talking about the box office. And, I watch a lot of, film pundits and film critics and movie shows and movie talking shows and all this kind of stuff. And there's this real strong emphasis on box office, and there should be. Look, nobody wants a movie to fail, right? Even the average movie fan should want a movie to do well. And the reason for that is because if it's a property you really like, if it's characters you really enjoy, if it's a series you're really excited about, you want it to do well, you want it to make a lot of money, because then the probability is very high that the studios will want to continue making those films and continue telling those stories. So it's not that the average film fan doesn't want the movie to do well, but whether the movie makes money or not is not indicative of whether the movie is good or not, right? They're not exclusive to one another is basically what I'm trying to say. Because keep this in mind. The Shawshank Redemption, one of the greatest motion pictures, in my opinion, ever made, certainly within the last 40 years. When it came out in 1994, it was a box office disaster. It was a bomb. It didn't make anything. It wasn't until it went to VHS and subsequently cable in the later half of the 90s when the general public really took notice. And when it was released in 1994, it got a huge positive critical response, and it was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, the most out of any Stephen King film adaptation. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor for Morgan Freeman, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, Best Editing, Best Original Score, Best Sound Mixing, and it didn't win anything. It even received 2 Golden Globe Award nominations for Best Performance by an Actor for Morgan Freeman and Best Screenplay for Frank Darabont. Whew! So look, if you're somebody out there that cares about quality, okay, and if you're somebody out there that doesn't give a shit about the latest fads or what's current or what's in the pop culture consciousness right now, because I have to feel like I'm a part of something. I have to feel cool too. You know what Beep. Right? If you're somebody that doesn't care about that stuff, then don't worry so much about box office numbers and all the focus and all that. You want the movie to do well, and as long as you know the movie's doing well, okay, great. Try to do your due diligence and research and find a particular critic or a particular set of critics that you happen to agree with, that you share commonalities with. You know, you tend to like the same movies, you tend to not like the same movies. You share sort of the same ideas and thoughts about what makes a good movie good, what makes a bad movie bad. If you can find that commonality with a critic or with a few of them, you're home free. A great site to check out, of course, as you all know, is Rotten Tomatoes. And some people give Rotten Tomatoes a lot of flack, but the fact of the matter is that I think it's because they don't understand what Rotten Tomatoes is. Rotten Tomatoes isn't like this, entity in and of itself where it's just like, Rotten Tomatoes gives this. This is Rotten Tomatoes' fault. Rotten Tomatoes is a platform that gathers the views of critics all across the country and sometimes even abroad and places them on this website and gives an average rating depending on what the critics thought of it. That's all it is. Rotten Tomatoes in and of itself isn't like this little tomato that goes around going, that movie sucked. No, that movie was great. That movie sucked.
That was okay.
Like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes or something like that, right? It's a general consensus. You see, in a perfect world, in a perfect fairy tale world, if the motion picture industry wanted box office numbers to equal whether a movie was good or not, this is how they would construct your movie-going experience. You would go to the movie theater, you would pay for your ticket, you'd go and watch whatever it is, and if you didn't like the movie, you'd go back to the box office and you'd ask for your money back. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen for obvious reasons, but then and only then, if hypothetically speaking, that was how it was, then and only then would you be able to look at box office numbers and figure out through the numbers by how much money a movie is making, whether the movie is good or not, because movies would have a gross profit of how much they made. They, calculate that, but then they'd have this net profit, which is deducting from the gross profit how many people got their money back. So then you'd go to like a site like Box Office Mojo and you'd go, oh, look, they've netted this much. Oh, well, they grossed 180 opening weekend. But really, when you factor in all the people that got their money back, they only grossed 22 million. You know what I'm saying? It's never going to happen for obvious reasons. But I'm just saying, in a fairy tale world, that's the only way that you would be able to go to a site or look at box office numbers and go, oh, well, that must mean it's really good because, all these... It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that, right? Just because a movie makes it just means a lot of people went to see it. That's what it means, okay? And never pay too much attention to opening weekend numbers either. There are certain properties, certain directors, certain actors, certain movies. I mean, when you look at Transformers, when you look at Star Wars, when you look at Hunger Games, when you look at Harry Potter, when you look at Jurassic Park, when you look at the big bona fide blockbusters out there, okay, that have proven track records, the chances of them making shitloads of money opening weekend is extremely high. It's the second and third weekends that you want to pay attention to in terms of numbers, because that will tell you whether there's a lot of rewatch value, right? Because if a movie is really, really, really good, especially when you're talking about superhero films or, Star Wars, Harry Potter, science fiction adventure films, whatever the case is, these big time escapism type movies, if they're making boatloads of money weekend after weekend after weekend, chances are it's probably pretty good. And then you combine that with what the critics are saying, well, you know what? Chances are these numbers really do. But opening weekend numbers mean nothing. Opening weekend numbers for big, bona fide, proven blockbusters mean nothing. I'm telling you, it means nothing. Absolutely, unequivocally nothing. Because I can tell you right now, whether The Last Jedi is good or not, it's going to make a shitload of money opening weekend. We know this, right? We know this. But 9 times out of 10, if a movie makes a lot of money opening weekend, but doesn't really continue to make a lot of money, you could turn to a site like Rotten Tomatoes and see that, yeah, the general consensus here is that it's not a really good, it's not a really good movie. And, the fact of the matter is that a movie-going experience nowadays is a really expensive endeavor for a lot of people. I mean, if it's you and your girlfriend or you and your husband and your 3 kids or whatever the case is, I mean, you can end up spending like $100, $120 and you haven't even sat down yet between the price of admission, the price of soda, the price of popcorn, the price of candy, the price of nachos and cheese, the price of chocolate, whatever they're serving at your theater. You could end up spending a fortune before you even sit down. So you want to have the best probability of success going to the movie on whether or not, this is going to be worth of the price of what you're going to pay. So the bottom line is this. just because a movie makes a lot of money doesn't mean that it was a good movie, right? So what does it mean? Well, it means that a lot of people went to see it. But the real question is not how many people went to see it. The real question is, of those people that went to see it, how many of them liked it? And unfortunately, based on box office receipts, we don't know. That's why, I did my little fairy tale kind of thing that in a perfect world, that they really cared about, showcasing box office numbers as a reflection of how many people like their movie, they would do it that way. But they don't for obvious reasons, and I totally understand and agree with that. But that's the only real way that you would get to know it. So that's kind of the bottom line, and something you gotta remember. You gotta keep that in mind. Now, on the other side of the coin, when we're talking about the studios and the directors and the writers and the producers and the editors and the cinematographers, and pretty much everybody who is involved in a picture, of course they care very much about how much money a movie makes, because there's a lot of stock involved in there, sometimes in the literal sense too. Some people have, shares and percentages and how much money a movie makes, and some people don't take a salary because if it makes a lot of money, they'll get a percentage of the box office receipts. And oh my God, it's completely complicated, but I mean, sometimes that is the case. So there is a dog in that fight. You don't have a dog in the fight. The only dog you might have in the fight is, well, I hope the movie does well because that means they'll make more. But you don't necessarily have a financial dog in the fight, where a lot of the studios and the people involved in the productions do, which is totally understandable. Their first priority is not to make a good movie. Now, look, nobody goes out to make a bad movie. I mean, these writers, directors, producers, cinematographers, editors, actors, they don't go out with the intention to make a bad movie. Nobody goes into a production with the hopes of making a bad movie. They hope you like the movie, and there's a number of reasons why a movie turns out to be a shit show. It could be a creative differences between, the director and the writer, or the studio executives and the director, or whatever the case is. There's a number of reasons, which could be a video in and of itself, which, I could do if you want me to, but I won't do that here. But the fact of the matter is that at the end of the day, the studios, all they care about is whether you went to see it or not. They hope you like it, but at the end of the day, they don't give a fuck whether you did or not, because they have your money. You can't go back to the box office and ask for your money back, right? So, and I get it. I mean, it's a business. This is show business. I'm not knocking it. It makes sense. I completely understand it. If I was the head of Warner Brothers, I'd be thinking the same thing. I mean, as a filmmaker, I might have a little more I might care more about the products I'm putting out, but at the end of the day, I want them to make cash too, of course, and then some. I want them to make as much money as possible. But you just have to keep that in mind, because I see a lot of fans online, and their hearts are in the right places. Not a lot of them. A lot of them are fucking idiots. But there are a lot of fans where their hearts are in the right places, and they think that, why are they doing this? Why are they not doing that? Why are they not listening? Why are they doing this? Why are they hiring that? Because they don't care what you think. They have it already in their minds. We know how to make this movie. We're going to do it our way. And you know what? We're going to market it. We're going to take $40 million and market the shit out of this thing and give you the illusion that it's the best fucking thing since sliced bread. And you're going to go see it, and we got your money. And we don't care. At the end of the day, we don't really care whether you liked it or not. Now, maybe I'm being a little too harsh. I'm not saying they don't care at all, but at the end of the day, what they have is your money, and that's all that matters. But as a film fan, that's a bit different, right? You do care about quality and product and things like that. Anyway, folks, my name's Dave McRae. Comment below and let me know what you think about what I had to say and what your experiences have been when talking about box office and numbers. And have you gone to see a movie that's made a lot of money that you were like, what the fuck is going on here? Have you gone to see a movie that just nobody has heard of and you're like, oh, dude, this is fucking amazing? Happens all the time. Comment below and let me know what movies those were. My name's Dave McRae. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2,000 subscribers. I'm shocked, actually. I can't believe I almost have 2,000 subscribers. It's not a lot in the big picture, but it's a lot for a guy who's just talking about movies. So anyway, yeah, comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.